What you're looking at is a sporting event like you'll never see again. The year is 1983, and 6 divers are about to battle it out for the high dive world record. They're preparing to leap from a shaky platform 172 feet off the deck, accelerating faster than a Formula One car, and hitting the near-freezing water at 70 miles per hour. High diving, with its irresistible combination of risk, danger, and daring, had gripped the world in the early 80s. This annual event became one of the most popular sporting broadcasts of its day, second only to the Super Bowl and the World Series. The anticipation and excitement surrounding these brave athletes were palpable, drawing massive crowds both at the venue and on television screens worldwide. Fans were captivated by the sheer bravery and skill required to perform such a feat, making it a must-watch event that year after year delivered unforgettable moments and heart-stopping action. For some, this was about to be a career-defining moment, making them legends of the sport and viral superstars decades before anyone knew what that even meant. But for others, it was an impending disaster, a deadly mistake with serious consequences. It's been over 40 years since that competition took place, but since that day in 1983, not a single person has come close to beating this record. And that's not from lack of trying either. Over the decades, a few brave guys have stepped up to the challenge, only to be rewarded with broken backs, shattered legs, and torn ligaments. The question is, what went down that day in 1983, and more importantly, why can't this record be broken? If you've ever stood on the 10-meter diving platform, then you can probably appreciate some of the wild high dives that have come and gone over the years. Maybe you remember that weird dude doing shallow jumps in the early 2000s, or the insane phenomenon of death diving that took off a few years ago. And who can forget the Red Bull cliff diving series? Their annual world tour has become the face of modern high diving, pushing the difficulty with enough flips and rotations to make you feel sick just from watching. But none of that even comes close to what was going down in the 80s. Take the Red Bull series, for example. These guys and gals are jumping from platforms somewhere between 70 and 90 feet, which is still plenty high enough to allow for some pretty horrific falls. But that's barely half the height they were jumping in '83. While high diving from such astonishing heights may seem like a relic of the past, the spirit of pushing human limits is very much alive today. Modern extreme sports enthusiasts continue to seek new thrills and break barriers, though often with more advanced safety measures in place. Base jumping, wingsuit flying, and other high-risk activities have become the new frontier for adrenaline junkies. These sports also involve meticulous preparation, split-second decision-making, and a deep understanding of the risks involved. Yet, even with advancements in technology and safety, the essence of the challenge remains unchanged: to defy gravity and push the human body to its limits. However, despite these new avenues for thrill seekers, the 1983 high dive record remains an insurmountable pinnacle. This isn't just due to the sheer physical danger involved, but also because of the psychological fortitude required to step off a platform 172 feet above the water with nothing but gravity pulling you down. Modern divers have access to better training, equipment, and medical care, yet the classic rules that governed the 1983 high dive challenge are what make this record so unique and enduring. There's a raw, almost primitive courage required to hurl oneself off a platform that high, armed with nothing but sheer willpower and minimal protection. It's a testament to the daring spirit of the divers from that era, who were willing to risk it all for the sake of pushing the boundaries. Today's extreme athletes, while equally brave, often have the benefit of technology and improved safety protocols, which, while necessary, also highlight just how extraordinary the feats of the 80s were. So, while we may never see anyone break this high dive record under the same conditions, we can still appreciate and honor the incredible courage and skill it took to set such a standard. The legacy of the 1983 high dive competition lives on as a benchmark of human daring, reminding us that sometimes the greatest records aren't just about physical prowess, but about the unyielding spirit to confront and conquer the impossible. To fully appreciate what was going on back then, we need to lay down some ground rules. And I don't mean the 27-page manual cooked up by the Aquatics Association. I'm talking about what hardcore high divers refer to as the classic rules. To set a record in the quasi-suicidal sport of high diving, you have to obey 3 key principles. Rule number 1. The diver must perform a minimum of a 180-degree vertical turn. That means at some point your head must be closer to the water than your feet, which is fundamentally what makes a dive, as opposed to a jump. Rule number 2. The diver must leave the pool unassisted. After completing the dive, the competitor must leave the pool under their own steam. If help is required, then the attempt is disqualified. Rule number 3. No protective equipment allowed. The old boys would suit up in a pair of Speedos, maybe a little tape around their knees for good luck, but shoes, helmets, or any specialized equipment is strictly off the table. Now, as you can imagine, hurling yourself 200 ft armed only with a pair of budgie smugglers and expecting to swim away unharmed is a pretty tall order. And that's exactly why this 1983 record has stood for so damn long. Jumping from this height and not getting injured is almost impossible. A dude called Randy Dickinson has probably come the closest to beating this thing. In 1985, he stuck the landing on this 174 ft dive, but shattered his femur in the process and was unable to leave the pool. Not only did he narrowly miss out on the world record, but he then proceeded to spend the next 9 months in a wheelchair. It was a similar story in 1987 when Olivier Favre attempted a double back somersault from 177th, coming down with a messy landing and breaking his back, requiring the safety divers to carry him out of the water. But not everyone plays by the book. Somewhat controversially, the Guinness World Records recognizes Lazaro Schaller's 192ft jump as the current standard for the highest dive, an attempt that violated all 3 of the classic rules. Now, I'm not arguing with what the guy did because you'll sure as hell never catch me up there. But if you've seen Lazaro's jump, you'll know that he didn't perform a single rotation. He was kitted out head to toe in protective equipment, and he had to be carried out of the pool due to the torn ligaments he sustained. And although the Guinness World Records gave his jump the green light, not everyone was quite as impressed. Dana Kunze, the guy who held the record previously, had some pretty strong opinions on the matter, and plenty of people agree that what Lazaro did was a ballsy cliff jump as opposed to a high dive. But watching Lazaro's jump do's make you question how far you could push high diving whilst playing by the classic rules. During the High Dive Challenge of 1982, 5 divers attempted the record of 170th, and all 5 sustained an injury of some sort. So of course the logical thing to do is raise the platform an extra 2 feet for the following year's competition. The 1983 event got off to a strong start, with the first 4 divers setting the bar with a few solid jumps and sticking the landing on a new record. The 5th diver up was Dana Kunze, a then 22-year-old considered one of the greatest divers to ever slip into a pair of Speedos. Dana's jump was a thing of beauty, miles ahead of the others in terms of difficulty and execution. And despite leaving one judge only mildly impressed, his score all but guaranteed the win. But as the final diver took to the platform, the competition was about to take a turn for the worse. Now, this guy had practically zero chance of beating Dana's near-perfect score, but still wanted a shot at tying up the record anyway. As he leapt off the platform, things almost immediately started to go sideways. Literally. As he hit the water, he knocked himself out cold, and for a terrifying second, he's lying face down in the pool. Apparently, no one had thought it would be a good idea to hire lifeguards, as the people who finally jumped in to save him were competitors in the women's competition. Will we ever see anyone beat this record? Honestly, I doubt it. Not only is this pushing the boundaries of what's humanly possible, but there are very few people in the world capable of such a feat. Even the women's high dive record, a dizzy 120th jump set by Lucy Wardle, has remained untouched for nearly 4 decades. We might not ever see these records broken, But one thing we do know for sure is that people in the 80s were tough as hell. So here's to the legends who risked it all, pushing the limits of human endurance and leaving a record that may very well never be broken. Do you think his record will ever be broken? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Until next time, stay safe.